This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the pod. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome Michael Dodsworth, the founder and CEO of Fanfare, to the podcast. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It is awesome to have you along for the ride with me today. We were talking about off air that you live in LA, and I grew up close to LA into my early 20s and then moved to New Zealand and lived there for almost 30 years before moving to Mexico. And we were comparing notes about moving around the world, moving from high cost places to low cost places, or in your case, high cost place to another high cost place. The world is pretty wild
Mhm.
right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like the last few years, especially, everything's changed. I've definitely found my way over to these shores through a series of strange events, fortuitous events. But yeah, I'm a northern boy, grew up in Leeds, and moved down to London shortly after university for work. Spent a few years in London and then found my way through. It was actually an acquisition of the company I joined by Salesforce. So they scooped up the whole team, moved us out to San Francisco, which was like a very seller for Salesforce, and then have been working here ever since. I moved down to LA a few years ago to work at another early stage startup called Rival in the live event ticketing space. And through the start of COVID, felt this problem that we sought to solve at Rival. Like we never really got our teeth into it. We never got a chance to get the product out there. So that's the origin story for Fanfare come from my frustration that we weren't able to solve some of the problems that we had at Rival.
And I love the fact that not only are you scratching an itch or you saw a gap in the market, but I think that technical founders building technical products is a great approach because it's really hard if you're trying to deliver a technical product to market and at least one of the founders isn't technical, then you're
Yep.
totally reliant on staff, employees, contract developers, etc. And not only does that increase your costs, but it just puts your whole business at risk of losing a dev team or losing a developer or whatever the case may be. And man, it can really slow down progress. So I think the fact that you are technical, you have an engineering background, you've been doing it for years and years, since all the way back in 2006 when you were working for Coral, and even before that. And then you also have this deep understanding of the commerce space as well, having worked at Optimizely, etc. So it feels like you've throughout your career, it's woven itself into this nice little tapestry of experience that allowed you to identify a gap in the market, allowed you to engineer the solution to meet that gap in the market, but also
hmm
allowed you to have empathy for the people operating in the space from an e-commerce perspective so that you could actually sell it, pitch it, position it, and do the GTM to exactly the kind of target market that you have for your platform. Does that feel about right directionally?
Yeah, I think looking back, like you can see the natural evolution. You can see like at Salesforce, we had to tackle these really gnarly issues of scale. Like I was working in the search team, and this was 2007, 2008 Salesforce. So we were growing incredibly quickly, very demanding customers, like very strict requirements over SLAs, uptime, and so on. Like we needed to tackle all of these really interesting and difficult problems at scale. And I think that also has provided a foundation into which like fanfare can be poured. Like it's an issue of scale that we're addressing. Like we're dealing with these like surges in traffic, these bad actors coming in and trying to like 3 million people showing up plus bots trying to grab all of your inventory. Like the foundation for the solution for that has its origins in Salesforce. And I think, yeah, I think it's interesting looking back and seeing that path and seeing like the gradual like Venn diagram start to come together to reveal fanfare. So absolutely, I think Optimizely was a step from Salesforce into the consumer space. And one of my roles there was like thinking about how we would generate consumer profiles. So building up a profile of you over time, understanding what kind of products you might be interested in, what kind of behavior is exhibited by this user. Again, like all of this is pointing directly towards fanfare eventually. I just couldn't see it at the
I
time.
love that. I love that. I love that founder's journey, founder's story. It's very powerful when you can bring it to life in a piece of technology that you put out into the world. You can create something that you think is actually going to be valuable to other people. And then when you start finding traction, it's the best feeling in the world as an entrepreneur. And the converse is
Mhm.
true takes longer than you expect, or maybe you don't get the market reception you expect. It's the most soul destroying thing ever. But you guys obviously have found your feet. And I want to just talk a little bit about what Fanfare actually is and does and what it sets out to be. And you, Bill, yourself, you say Fanfare turns product launches into immersive experience for today's experiential fans. And we know that there's lots of retailers selling lots of different things that are based on hype, right? They're based on drops. They're based on seasonality. They're
Hmm.
based on new ranges. They're based on, in some of these brands, they have built their entire GTM on the scarcity model, right? We
Right.
can think of lots of fashion brands, and they could say, "Look, we're only going to this is a limited range. We're going to have limited sizes. We're going to have limited colors. It's going to be available for a very limited window of time. We're going to let you know the moment that it actually is available for you to buy. So get in the queue, and we're going to notify you when this drop hits. You can go onto our subscription list, our mailing list, whatever it is." But what you set out to do was to bring this all together, what it feels like. And again, in all transparency, we've never worked together. I've never implemented Fanfare before, so I have to go with what's on the tin, so to speak. But you say specifically on your website, the whole idea of Fanfare was to bring the idea of craft, launch, and reward, and all the communication around that underneath one technical roof, correct?
Absolutely. Like, I think the model of scarcity is incredibly potent because it taps into something innate within us. Like, we all want the thing that's hard to get. We all go after those shiny objects. And if you can tap into fandom, if you can generate fandom around your brand or around your products, it's an incredibly robust model that you have there. And if you take something like a Birkin bag, for example, like, you can't just walk into a store and buy these things, right? You have to go on a whitelist for multiple years. They will maybe vet you to make sure that you're the right type of customer for them. And if they're missing targets for a quarter, let's say, they can just dial up production. Like, it doesn't it's such a robust model where they can just dial things up and down and use that scarcity model to drive people in. And I think we see more and more brands reaching for that model. So you see it more, like, not just in luxury, streetwear, footwear, definitely are pioneers of that. I think Supreme
Yeah, I was
and
going to say
brands like that
Supreme.
really pioneered some of that model. But you see it more and more. There's a soap brand, Dr. Squatch in LA, who did a collaboration with Sydney Sweeney. So again, drove an enormous amount of traffic to their site. Like, the site fell over. They were still dealing with issues a few weeks later, but incredible excitement for that. Those soaps were going for £2,000 in the UK in on eBay afterwards. Like, they created a moment around their brand. They created a moment around their products. And I see more and more brands trying to separate out the things that we want from the things that we need. Like, the things that we need, you can go to Amazon and you want convenience for those things. But for the things that we care about, like, everyone has something that they care about, like that weird little foible that everyone has. And, like, we want an experience around those things. We want a moment around those things. We want a community to be built around those things. And that's where Fanfare steps in. So we can help brands run a successful drop, run a successful launch. I mean, the Swift 2 was launched a few months ago now, and, like, it did what everyone expected it to do. Best Buy fell over. You go to Walmart, Walmart falls over. Like, these are expected, anticipated events, and still someone like a Best Buy can't stay up during that. So we provide that foundation to make sure you run a successful drop. But then also things like loyalty you mentioned. I sign up for so many sneaker drops and I fail in most of them. In fact, most people fail in most of them because they're a scarce product.
Yes.
But it would be nice if after the fifth attempt of me trying to get something, that you reward my time and effort with the brand, bring me into an exclusive drop, give me early access, move me forward in line. So I feel like, I'm not just being left out in the cold. Like, I am being rewarded for my loyalty with the brand. I'm just an unlucky VIP in these experiences.
Couldn't agree more. And what e-commerce, I almost think of Fanfare like the equivalent of the digital equivalent of a store drop, right? We've all seen Culture Kings out of Australia. They've expanded into the US. They have a big store footprint. They were actually acquired by a much larger player in the PE space in the US, and Now they're exploding in size. But when they mastered the art of the physical store drop in Australia,
Mm.
and they would, when they were having a new drop, or they had an autograph signing, or they had a clothes signing, or they had a famous DJ. So they would have a DJ booth in their stores, and they would have world famous DJs that would come for a limited time only to the store on a given day or given
Mhm.
hour of a given day. And they would have people literally lined up through the malls, out the door, and around the block to get into these stores to access not only the products, but the experiences around those products at the same time. And so I feel like they merged those two things together really well in the physical space. And I feel like you're trying to achieve that in the digital space and a digital equivalency of that as best as possible. So we know it works. We know the model works, but having the infrastructure there to be able to manage that is the hard part, right? And sure, yeah, you can set up a Klaviyo flow. You can do all sorts of segmentation. You can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things by cobbling together other components maybe of your existing stack, but it's a heavy lift, right? And so it feels like what you've tried to do is you've said, hey, look, let's take the difficulty away from this to where every brand can bring an element of anticipation, an element of FOMO, an element of drop culture, an element of the insider's guide to getting a deal or whatever it might be. It feels like that was the whole vision. And obviously that requires integration with lots of other systems to be able to make that happen,
Mhm.
commerce systems, communication platforms, etc. So, what does your current integration set look like? And presumably, that's going to have to grow over time.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're deeply integrated with Shopify right now. So you can just flip a switch, drop Fanfare components into your PDP, and we'll facilitate that drop for you. We'll provide a wait list. We'll show you who's signing up, when they're signing up, who these people are over time, how much they've spent, if they're at risk, all of those things we can determine from these users that are showing up to these events. But then we'll make sure that people don't get early access or work around the system. Like it's very easy in Shopify to just have something that carts your product and goes straight through where other people get left out in the cold because they're actually trying to go through a process. So deeply embedded in Shopify, Klaviyo integration too. So we're treating this as an event. So this is something that you orchestrate from start to finish. I can set up my announcements. I can set up when I send my access codes. I can set up all of that stuff ahead of time and just let Fanfare go through the motions for you. So I'm not frantically firefighting in the moment, which is like the cobbled together solution you mentioned, is usually just someone with their hair on fire, just frantically trying to open things up at the right time and make sure that things are going wrong as people wind through that process. So everything can be set up ahead of time. You can set up your Black Friday flash sale now, like way ahead of time, make sure all of your announcements and things are lined up and then just let it run. So that's the idea with Fanfare is like we want to, the more we spoke to brands, it was not just about that final checkout flow. It was about everything before and after. Like I want to be able to reach out to people who are unsuccessful and recommend something or bring them into an exclusive drop the next time. And conversely, like upstream, I want to build an audience for this product ahead of time. And often brands don't know what is a successful announcement strategy. How often should I send these things? How should I reach people? Who should I reach? It's just a thumb suck. It's just a kind of hit and hope usually with
Finger
these
in the
brands.
air.
And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think bringing data to it and saying, what if you have these kinds of products? An announcement 9 a.m. on a Monday morning is not going to work for you. Like maybe a weekend through Instagram is how you're going to reach people most successfully. And you mentioned the in real life experiences. We are actually moving towards both online and in real life because I think we can solve for both of those things. But the idea of bringing someone into an online drop, like maybe you have an influencer or someone who can do a how to, or maybe you have a celebrity
Yeah.
who you can bring
Live
in
stream
to
or
a
whatever.
absolutely have a live stream where even if you don't get that product, you felt like you had an experience. You're more likely to come back if you know that the experience is going to be worth your time.
Imagine if American Eagle had a Sydney Sweeney live stream, for example,
100%.
to coincide. I don't think they did. Imagine if they did. Imagine if to coincide, and imagine if they came out with the Sweeney range of jeans, for example, a collab on a limited edition drop based series of jeans, right? That I think they could have done so much. They did a lot, obviously, with that, with their spend on her, but I feel
Mhm.
like they could have woven that into a much more unified campaign, a unified experience that was more engaging with the customer. And it feels like that's exactly what you're trying to do. And I guess the beauty also of being in the Shopify ecosystem so deeply is that now you can integrate those experiences into the Shopify pause. And you can say, look, okay, cool. Now we can actually have the rules at pause for specific locations that the customer can nominate which location they want to shop at. They can nominate, they can get on the waiting list for that specific location when inventory hits that location. There's all sorts of things you can do in store just by leveraging all the out of the box native Shopify pause features while you're at it.
Yeah, and I think the ability to just add live streaming to an on sale in Shopify is a pretty compelling experience. And we definitely have spoken to brands where that's the thing that they're focused on the most is, wait, I can just add this component to my product page and I can have someone just live stream directly into my product page. That's amazing. I would want to do that as often as I could. So I think that's an important piece of it. I think there's all kinds of things that we want to explore with what we could do here. I think both in terms of identifying you as a human, the more you can interact with these experiences, the more you can experience something that's not a waste of your time, is not just a flat spinner frustration. I think the better it is for everyone. So I think there's a lot of scope for what we can do. I think the bar is set pretty low on some of these experiences. Live ticketing, my
Yes.
origins in live ticketing, like it's so terrible. And it's just a frustrating experience. No matter who you talk to, they have some horror story about some event that they tried to go get tickets for. And it was just painful. Like bots came in, the inventory was sold for 10x on the secondary market before they had a chance. Like all of those things are solvable problems. You just need a vendor that kind of cares about that stuff.
I feel like I wish you'd have been around when New Zealand went off the deep end and lost the plot during COVID, and they made everybody queue up that was outside the country for the limited locations. So they had drops. It sounds weird, but the government effectively had drops of quarantine spaces that they would release on the government website when they became
Mm.
available. And they would only do this every couple of months. And they would just make it available, and literally they would sell out, so to speak, within minutes, and you just had to sit there and refresh the page to try to get it. There was no take a number, there was no randomization, there was no, oh, you can get on the wait list and hey, look, we, based on the current consumption of rooms, we think that 4 months from now you're gonna get a slot. There was none of that. It was ridiculous. It was like the Hunger Games trying to get a slot in quarantine to try to get back into your home country as a Kiwi, which was frankly, in my opinion, disgusting. And so people were literally marooned in countries like Mexico, where I live now, where the government had to come out with a special program in Mexico for people like Kiwis who were stranded outside of their home country. They couldn't go home
Mm.
because they couldn't get a quarantine spot. They had to come out with a special program called the regularization program so that they could qualify for temporary residency in Mexico because they didn't know how long they were going to be stuck here
Mm.
until they could get back to their home country. I don't want to make this political, but it feels like this exact kind of frustration that people felt during that time of missing out over and over again, despite trying to get a place in the quarantine and being willing to pay for the pleasure, that same frustration can happen with brands as well.
Yeah, the origin of Fanfare, it started for me at the start of COVID, and I saw exactly the same thing, like lines around the block for groceries, right? People trying to get appointment slots, and exactly that experience. Like I've tried 5 times to get this. Surely that's worth something, right? Like
Yeah.
surely you're keeping my place in line. And then no, it's just a complete free for all every time it opens up. And like wherever you see scarcity, this could be swim classes for your kids. It could be a campsite. It can be a restaurant that you want to get access to. Same experience. And for us, like when you enter the waitlist, if we stock out, we keep your placing line for the next on sale that you have. So if you
Wow.
just missed out, right?
Ah.
If you were first in line, but you just missed out, like then you're first in line for the next drop. And I think that's an important aspect of it, is just being transparent and fair to the consumers. Like you don't want to create just a feeding frenzy every time there's an on sale. It's just not a good experience and it's going to cause pain for people. So I think if you know that maybe I missed out on the Switch 2 this time, but next time I'm guaranteed. Like I was so close this
Yeah.
time. Then you would probably hold out. Like I don't need to go and scan 50 other sites and wander a neighborhood to try and find these things because I know the next time I'm good. So I think that's a big part of it too.
And let's talk for a second about the end customer's experience on a Shopify site. Is it a case of, okay, cool, on the PDP of a specific product that I know, okay, it's out of stock now, or it's only on pre order now, or it's going to be dropped in 2 weeks or whatever it is? I can sign up to go on the wait list for an individual product, but then can I also go on the general wait list for any future drop that you have, almost like joining a mailing list where I can just go on the general wait list for any new drops that you have? I know I want to be involved in that, or at least be notified about it when
Mm.
those new products drop, or is it always linked to a single individual SKU that you join a wait list for each individual SKU?
Yeah, it can be linked to a collection of products too. So not
Okay.
just an individual product. So maybe you have a launch of your spring collection
Ah,
and you want pizza people to be notified, you want to have that on sale be like a cohesive experience, you can add a waitlist for that. You can have a whole drop experience for your spring collection. You can have a celebrity come in and do a how-to for that product line. So those kind of things I think are important because I think flash sales, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, similar thing. Like there's a set of products that you want to launch through a common page and through a common experience. So we definitely support that. It's possible that you could set it up for all of your products.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen someone set that up, but like you could for sure create just a general collection and just have all of your
Which is like
products
your drop
go through the
collection
same
or whatever
process.
you call it, whatever you like, but link that to
Absolutely.
where people just sign up for when anything new comes out or anything new that's assigned to that collection. Boom. Now you're going to get the notification that's available basically.
Absolutely.
Wow. And how do you handle a scenario where you want to restrict products to only people who are on the wait list? How does that get managed to where you restrict the buying capability and the permissions so that only people that have signed up for that drop get access to it?
Yeah, so we sit in front of the whole checkout flow. So our components sit in front of that checkout flow. And we have some magic, especially with Shopify, to make sure that only the people who have gone through the process with us, who we've admitted through the process, get to check out. So if you try and do whatever it is, like through the API, through all kinds of mechanisms, you try and sneak your way through, like you'll be stopped because you didn't go through a process. So we act as a gating process. So we can say how many people should come through, exactly who should come through. Like maybe it's your VIP list that has access at 9 a.m. and then everyone else at 10 a.m. Like we can make sure that those people come through at the right times. So that's how we're building things. And we have this audience creation flow inside of Fanfare. So you can create audiences based on a few things. So some of it will be behavioral things that we've captured, whether you're at risk as a consumer, like we can identify people who are at risk and say, just bring the people who are at risk in through a 9 a.m. drop and give them the early access. So there's all kinds of things that you can slice and dice there. We've seen people do the losers club, which I mentioned, like the 5 failures in a row. Bring those people in because we feel bad for those people and we don't want them to just disappear off to some other brand. So there's all kinds of things that you can do once you can access the data and then use that data to then drive the experience.
And how does it work when, because I've seen some brands want to intermingle or connect subscriptions to drops, and they'll say, look, you can subscribe to every, you could say, look, I want to just be a subscriber to where every single new drop I get my size, my preferences, just send it to me. How do you
Mm.
integrate some of the subscription software and even Shopify's now native subscriptions, which they never had before, but it's fairly recent that they added subscriptions? How do you effectively tie into the data around existing subscriptions to where effectively you can say, look, I want these people to go to the front of the queue for every single drop because they're subscribed. They should always be guaranteed that they're going to get their product because they're subscribed to get those products.
Yeah, so that ties into the audience creation. So we integrate with Klaviyo. A lot of people will manage subscriptions through Klaviyo, and you can have a static list that we will pull from either a CSV or just from Klaviyo. So you can say, here is my subscription list, and I want this experience to open up at 9 a.m. just for those people on that list. So you can absolutely craft that experience just for your subscribers.
Right.
You can make sure everyone else can maybe see it, but don't know how to access it. And then you can tell them if you subscribe, you'll be given exclusive access to the next one. So there's all kinds of things you can do there. Subscriptions is a big one. I think having some enhanced, elevated experience just for your subscribers.
Hmm.
So I mentioned the live streaming aspects, like having that celebrity, having that influencer come in and talk to the community of subscribers makes you feel special,
Yeah.
right? Like it's all about making people feel special. I think discount codes and things of that nature, they don't really cut it to build loyalty and fandom. You need something more. And I think having an exclusive experience just for those people on that list makes it something special.
Amazing, amazing. Look, what is next for Fanfare? It's a pretty rich feature set that you already deliver. If you've got a headless solution, or you want to offer this through a kiosk or something like that, then you've got full APIs and an SDK. You've got native integration with Shopify and Klaviyo. It's basically a no code, low code, no code platform. You've got an analytics suite that layers over the top of this. So you've got good data. You've got integration for not only email, but also SMS. You've got this whole queue management thing, the whole queue randomization, but also escalation in the next queue management. You've got quite a fairly feature rich platform. But is there anything you don't do today that your customers are asking for? Are there any gaps that you already see in the market that you go, we don't do this today, but in 6 months we will be? That what's high on your radar over the next 6, 12, 18 months?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things on the online side. One is making this a suite of tools for marketers and enhancing the marketing capabilities of what we have, like email and SMS is fine, but if you could reach people and create a wait list that people can access through Instagram, through TikTok, right? Because that's where your audience are. And if you have an influencer celebrity, like they're engaging with them on those platforms. So if you can jump into a waitlist directly from that experience, I think that's really compelling. And we can help you create the entire experience. So make it consistent all the way from the announcement through to the final drop. We can help there. On the reporting and analytics side, it's not very exciting on the consumer, but just being able to use generative AI to ask questions of your data is something that I find really compelling. So, a lot of brands that we speak to, they have this wealth of data just sat there, but they don't necessarily have the tools to go and inspect it, to pull insights out of it. And I would love to have just a very simple way of just providing a prompt and asking questions of your data. So, who should I reach out to for this upcoming hoodie that I'm selling for $200? And who's been at risk for the last 6 months that I should reach out? So, like asking questions in just plain text and getting answers from that data, I think is really cool. And then finally, just in real life, this kind of pulls me full circle on the live event space. We have the Olympics, we have the World Cup final. I think the idea of having 70,000 people all point their phone up to the sky and do an in real life drop and finding out in that moment if you've been successful or not, that's a real moment, right? That's if you're an athlete launching a product and you can do it in a stadium filled with people and hear their reaction, that's a very different experience. So trying to provide something that can do that is challenging, and but I think we have a good path forward on that.
Wow, if I could see my name come across scrolling down the screen in a stadium as one of the ones that was selected because I pre-subscribed or signed up for the drop, and if I was able to get something special in the stadium, or I was able to get an autograph session with a star or whatever it might be, there's lots of very that I think that omni-channel convergence of the benefits is really cool. That concept of how it goes beyond your standard loyalty platforms, points-based loyalty platforms, whatever. It goes way beyond that, and it links it to product experiences and physical experiences at the same time. And I think that's very cool. What do you think about B2B? Because what we saw, and again, during COVID, for example, we saw that building materials were in short supply. And if I'm a distributor of
Mhm.
building products and I have 10 developers that need, I know this sounds really germane, they need gibboard, they need timber, they need whatever. And it was hard for them to manage the demand during that time based on availability, based on who should get what, based on what their average spend with us is, and trying to prioritize who got what products, especially when they're in short supply. This same thing happens in the B2B world. And so there is an area of FOMO in the B2B world. Okay, maybe it's not retail products or it's not Supreme, and maybe it doesn't sound as sexy as getting the latest new design of a piece of clothes or going to a Sydney Sweeney autograph signing party or something like that. But there is absolutely this concept of fear of missing out in the B2B world as well. And there's oftentimes more demand than there is supply. And so being able to manage that and making sure that you get what you deserve at any given point in time in terms of an allocation. Oftentimes, this has to be managed in a complex way inside of an ERP or inside of a commerce system of some variety. It feels like there's a big opportunity here in the B2B world too, although obviously Shopify is not nearly as well known in the B2B world as it is in the B2C and D2C world. Do you see opportunities in the B2B world to either have a unique B2B tier of your platform or to have a unique version of your platform for the B2B world that's tailored for all those use cases that crop up every single day in the B2B world?
Yeah, I think you're right. Just scarcity anywhere is going to have the same problems. It's going to have a wait list. It's going to have people getting frustrated that they were there 5 times, and it's exactly the same pain points. We've built this to be platform agnostic. From the very beginning, I was thinking about being able to be integrated into things like Ticketmaster and to Access and all of those ticketing platforms. So Shopify is like an instance of Fanfare, and it's deeply tied to Shopify, but you can embed our components wherever it is you want to embed them. So you can grab our SDK and you can add that to whatever your store is. Like, even if you don't have your own platform of choice, if you've just homegrown something, you can just add our components on the top and exactly the same things will happen. Like, maybe not B2B live streaming for these
Yeah.
things, but like absolutely the waitlist management, all of the setting up of schedules, timing, access, all of those things are in Shopify and outside of Shopify. So yeah, from the very beginning, and with some, it's difficult to build something that's going to be agnostic to all platforms, but that was always the intent. Is like Shopify is the great market for us. Fashion brands, streetwear brands, and so on is their go-to. So that's where we should definitely place ourselves. But there's a wealth of people, the swim classes, the campsites, a bunch of government-related services. There's all kinds of things that are in have scarcity and need something to manage that scarcity. Absolutely, I think that we can go in that direction.
But they're going to need, I guess that would mean that by definition, unless they're running Shopify, they're going to automatically be on your enterprise plan. And presumably that's going to get pretty expensive pretty fast, I assume.
No, that's actually on the pro plan. So
Okay.
our plans are linked to usage. So
Okay.
if you're a giant brand and you get 3 million people showing up all at once, then that's something that we can talk about. But I think for people who just want to use the SDK, drop that on top of their existing store, like that's catered for in the pro plan.
Yeah, it just doesn't say it. So it only says API and SDK access. It only lists that underneath the enterprise custom plan. So, anyways, maybe you just need to update the website, but it seems very accessible. So, basic plan, $99 a month, up to 1,000 participants per event. Geez, if you've got more than that, then you can certainly, and up to 10,000 messages a month. Geez, if you're using more than that, then man, you could probably easily justify the jump to the pro plan at $399 a month, up to 10,000 participants event, up to 100,000 messages a month. Geez, that out of the box Shopify integration, the out of the box Klaviyo integration, etc. And so the out of the box Klaviyo integration isn't included in the basic plan. So it feels, I'm guessing that the vast majority of your customers are on the pro plan.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have a few people like they'll dip their toe into the drop model and they'll start small. But I think it's such a powerful model. Like you quickly get to a point where you have a lot of people coming in through these experiences, and you want the enhanced experience, and you want all of those features. So yeah, we definitely see people dipping their toe with the basic plan and then moving their way up.
And who is Fanfare not typically a good fit for? Have you found any brands or products or categories or verticals that maybe people have tried it and it just doesn't work for whatever reason? They just can't figure out an angle that resonates with their customers. We've talked about how all the ways in which it works. have you identified any common themes where brands just don't find success with the platform and they probably shouldn't bother?
Yeah, I think you need to know why you're running a drop. Like you need to know why you're doing this. I think the brands that are successful, they have something in mind, right? They want to reach a different demographic, or they have a particular, they want to drive people to the wider catalog by using a Halo product. Like they're very thoughtful about how they want people to go through. It's not they're just throwing stuff against the wall and just hoping they have a bunch of revenue come out the other side. So I think that's an important aspect of it. I think that separation of things that people need and things that people want. The things that people need, people want convenience. They don't want to have to go through a drop experience just for like detergent. I think society is in a bad state if that's where we find ourselves. And and I think that's true here. So you want to find the things that people care deeply about, and you want to drive scarcity around those things. You don't want to drive scarcity around all of the products because people will feel burnt out by that. They'll feel like you frustrated through that process. So you just have to be thoughtful about the kinds of products that you're using this model for and why you're using it.
Yeah, someone may not, or a brand may not use it all the time, but they may even have, even for a detergent, maybe there's a limited edition, or maybe there's a, I don't know, maybe there's a product that comes with some sort of special benefit, or it's a limited edition size, or it's a limited edition fragrance, or it's a limited edition whatever. I think even it feels like, whilst these brands that are, especially with like common CPG products that aren't necessarily sexy, maybe it wouldn't work for them all the time, but it would work for them on the occasion where they've got something special happening that they want to highlight, and they know, okay, this is, maybe it's a new Arizona tea flavor that they're only going to have for a month or something like that. Or
Mhm.
it could be almost anything where normally this wouldn't make sense to get on a waiting list for, or to be notified of. But I think that this drop strategy can be probably applied in selective ways with most products and most brands.
Yeah, I think that's the operative word, just selective, with that have intention behind it. Like the Sydney Sweeney bathwater soap,
Yeah,
that's clearly like very intentionally going after a little humor, a little bit of like intrigue,
yeah.
confounding kind of drops. Like those kind of things really drive an audience. But yeah, I think just that's important. And I think that the more that we've built up data for these brands to be able to use in crafting like their announcements, their SMSs, their emails, like being aware of like how often, who, and how to reach people. I think we've definitely seen brands through their own setup will oversaturate their audience. They will just throw messages their way because they don't really know what's working, what's not working. So they over index and just send too much, and then people stop reading that stuff. So try and be thoughtful about how you're doing that stuff, and that is driven by having the data itself. So I think that's an important part too.
Makes complete sense. Listen, very exciting, very cool product, very cool platform, very cool concept. Really like it. I know you're already seeing good success in the market. Wish you every success in the future. Do you have any competitors in the market, or do you feel like you guys are doing something unique, or the way that you're doing it, that really you've set yourself apart from the pack? Because, like I said, I know that some loyalty platforms, some membership platforms, some marketing automation platforms have elements of this in them in some way that facilitate this, but I don't live in your world, so I don't really, it's not like I've looked to try to find, is there a direct competitor to yours out there? Or do you feel like what you guys have built and the way that you guys are delivering this for customers is pretty damn unique to you?
Yeah, I think there are people doing the pieces, like you say, and now you're left just cobbling things together and gluing things together. I think the real value that I see with brands is pulling all of that stuff together. Like if your waitlist system is completely separate from your commerce system, which is completely separate, like now you're having to try and knit all of that stuff together to create something in the moment. And I think that's where I think we can provide real benefit. And I think over time, as we build up profiles of users and we have the ability to not only capture the data, but allow you to use that through creation of experiences for those users, I think that's really compelling. So I don't see anything in the market that ties all of those aspects together. And I think there's real value in tying those aspects together. You can learn an enormous amount of stuff from the people showing up by clicking on announcements that we provide, right? In understanding who's on the wait list, when they sign up, and whether they drop out of the process and so on. There's an enormous wealth of information in tying everything together. Yeah, I don't really see anyone else doing that. I think that's one of the challenges, honestly, was like, people feel like this process is broken and it's almost by design, or like it's just and expected that it's broken. Like people are going to go in, they're going to stare at a spinner, products are going to disappear because bots came in, and that's just the way ticket sales work. That's just the way drops work, and it's not true. We can absolutely solve for these problems. Like it's a challenge for sure, but if you have a vendor like dedicated to solving these problems, we can get there. So I think that's an important part too, and that's definitely, like I say, that's been a challenge in just framing these problems as solvable, because people have been used to pain for such a long time that they've almost given up in trying to solve these problems. We're here to help. We can help solve these problems for you.
And do you also integrate? I know you integrate with email, SMS platforms, etc. Do you also either create your own or integrate with push notification platforms as well? Because it feels like push notifications would be a big comms channel for drops.
Yeah, I mean, we do. We're building out integrations constantly. So we integrate with Resend right now, with SendGrid for SMS and so on. So I think we'd like to get to the point where all of the major platforms are accommodated. So you can just bring your own templates and we will kick off that push notification so you can send those emails out. But for now, like we are using something like internally that's going to send emails out that are branded as you find appropriate. But yeah, absolutely, integrations are something that we're constantly building. It's getting a little easier with the tooling,
Yes.
and we'll get there for sure. If there's any integrations that people see that they would like, please reach out. Like we're always happy to talk about these things.
I love it. I love it. Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, if anybody wants to reach you, I'll drop your LinkedIn profile into the show notes and I'll drop your website URL into the show notes. Other than that, if people want to reach out to you and talk all things fans, drops, build a loyal, craving, raving customer base, what's the best way to get hold of you?
I mean, LinkedIn, you can grab my time directly on LinkedIn. Please do that. Always happy to talk through this stuff. Always happy to hear what problems you might be facing, issues that we might be able to address. And yeah, if you can email me directly too. So Michael at fanfare.io, always happy to talk about this stuff. And we've just started putting case studies and things, and just things that people can use as examples and point to when they're thinking about running their own drops. So please head over to fanfare.io and have a look at our blog for that stuff.
I love it. I love it. Now, as we do come down to the end of our time together, this is where I get to flip the script. I get to hand the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It can be personal or professional. Mr. Michael Dodsworth from Fanfare, what is your question for me today?
I think we can keep it on something fanfare related. So you mentioned B2B. Do you have a personal experience where you've run into this kind of thing and you've felt pain from those experiences? I'm intrigued by everyone's horror stories.
Yeah, look, I think it's more my customers, not necessarily me, because I consult to manufacturers and distributors. And so I think one of the things that pretty routinely comes up is especially when global supply chains are disrupted, it's very common to run out of very popular items, whether it's building materials, hoses, belts, industrial supplies. It almost doesn't matter which industry we're talking about here. There is fragility in the global supply chain universally across the board, all the way from raw materials to chips to everything in between. And I've just seen it in more than one instance where they just really struggle to decide and handle and manage. Okay, when a new lot of stock comes in, who gets this first? Do we fulfill all the back orders first before we even show it as available again on the website? How do we manage those back orders? How do we manage pre-orders if we're getting a new product in, a new product range in, something like that? How do we just have our account manager send an email to all their favorite clients and say, hey, look, this is going to be hitting our warehouse in 2 weeks time. Do you want to place an order now and get it on back order so that you make sure you get the goods you want? I just think there's a lot of operational complexity in the B2B world around making sure the right clients get access to the right products at the right time, given scarcities and lots of different categories. And I think that's just something I've encountered many times. This is not a one-time thing. This is a regular situation. And normally, most often, this is handled through a back order enablement capability or split shipment if somebody
Hmm.
orders a cart. Because in the B2B world, orders are not usually small. They're not usually one item or one unit. It's usually 50 line items, 500 units, whatever it is. And in the B2C and D2C world, usually the rule is we just don't allow you to place an order for something that's out of stock. It's that simple. But in the B2B world, you have to allow people to place an order for something that's out of stock so that it goes into an indent order, so that when the supplier reorders off the manufacturer or the manufacturer has to increase their production or whatever it is, so that they know what they need to fulfill at any given point in time and what basically allows them to do efficient demand planning. And this is just a recurring theme in the B2B world. So it is certainly not restricted to allocation challenges in the B2C and D2C world.
That's interesting. Yeah, I've been thinking about this more on the B2C side, just having Kickstarters and being able to more accurately judge demand. Like maybe you don't want to have a warehouse filled with this red hoodie. Like you want to start things small, create a wait list around it, understand what the price point should be, understand all of those things based on the demand, and then you can satisfy orders in a very expected, deliberate way instead of just having these things just stacked up and not sure what to do with them. So that's interesting. Interesting.
The other thing that is very common in the B2B world that this could potentially help solve for is global MOQ. And what I mean by that is typically in the B2B world, we already have MOQs at like the individual SKU and or customer level. It says, okay, you must buy a minimum of 30 units of this thing, or we sell this thing in unit outers of one, but the inner it's got 30 inners. And so therefore you're buying it in buying increments of 30 or whatever it is. So this is already very common in the B2B world. But another thing that is extremely common in the B2B world is a manufacturing run or distribution buy-in will be based on a combined MOQ. So it says, they'll say, look, until we get across all customers 1,000 orders for
Mm.
orders for 1,000 units of this item, we're not going to run this. So this is a global MOQ that says, okay, we already have orders, and being able to present this to the customer meaningfully on the front end is really important. Say, okay, we have to have 1,000 units ordered of this item to go and source this item or rerun the production on this. There's currently 500 units on order across all customers. So if you want to guarantee that we'll run this, then order 500 units, and that gets us to 1,000 units. Or if you only order 200
Mm.
units, then that's going to get us to 700 units, and we have to wait till 300 units more worth of orders come in, and then we're gonna run that. We'll notify you when that's going to run based on the cumulative indent ordering cycle. And so this is another massive challenge for the B2B world that is just so ultra common. It's how you meaningfully track that in usually your ERP and then present that information meaningfully to the customer on the front end as part of the waitlist cycle. That's another massive challenge in the B2B world.
We could absolutely solve for that too. That's a very simple thing for us to be able to. We would have to integrate with that ERP system or whatever you
Yes.
have,
Yes.
been able to surface that stuff because it's similar to a Kickstarter, but it's inventory and orders rather than actually how much money has been committed to this particular Kickstarter. So if I see there's 500 people waiting for that product, I can surface that and you can know 500 items will push you over the edge.
Awesome. Look, there's an opportunity there for you. Listen,
Okay.
this is a very awesome conversation. Really enjoyed it. Wish you every success with Fanfare. Can't wait to speak to you again soon. Thank you so much for your time. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.